So green technology, welcome to this presentation. We're going to talk today about the innovation, impact, and growth behind green technology. So you may ask me, what is green technology? So a lot of people think that green technology is related to clean, renewable technology, or any technology associated with clean energy. But green technology is a much broader domain, right? Include many facets. The term green technology is also called as environmental technology. If you look at Wikipedia, it pretty much involves any technology that is environmentally friendly in production, supply, process, supply chain. In broader terms, if you want to think about a simpler definition of green technology, it's any technology that is reversing or mitigating the impact of human activity on our planet. So it includes a lot of continuously evolving, innovative new products, services, technology, anything from reducing to recycling to regenerating. You can find, for example, in, again, like producing energy, reducing waste. A lot of different sectors are available under the green technology umbrella. So now you're asking me, why green technology? Well, you may have heard 10,000 years ago, and until 10,000 years ago, we were used to live in a geological era called the Holocene. So the Holocene era was used to be climatically stable, right? Under this geological era, the Holocene, you could actually have lived in a symbiosis where human beings, vegetation, biodiversity, all the required interconnected function were used to function to provide an equilibrium. Any global change at that point in the Holocene era were introduced by solar variation, tectonic plate change, meteorite impact, like some global, any change that were not due to human activity. So what's interesting is there is an overwhelming evidence that we have no part of another era, another geological era called the Anthropocene. And this Anthropocene is the result of human activity. If our consumption of good resources, information, the way we dispose waste product. So if you look in the last 250 years, right, we have created climate change. 85% of the biodiversity has disappeared. We've created ocean acidification, desertification, pollution, a lot of change that have been causing a lot of trouble to our environment. What's also really relevant is we're realizing the technology and system we are in place are totally inefficient. You may have seen last year there was a very interesting TED talk about food. So it's this woman, Sarah Menke, that used machine learning on agricultural and food system to predict what's the food situation. And what's interesting is she predicted, based on the rate we're doing right now, right, the climatic change, the food consumption, that we will have a food crisis in the next 10 years, right? So based on all of that, right, today we're facing a situation where we need to come back to this Holocene era. We need to come back to an environment which is climatically stable and regenerate our environment. So one very interesting avenue is green technology, right? Through green technology, you can create scalable market opportunities that has a measurable impact. And by creating this opportunity, this scalable market opportunity, you can use this technology that was created. 5 years ago, we started creating new technology, finding application for it, exploring it. Well, now this technology has matured. And under this maturing new technology, you can create connected and convenient solutions that are key to consumer market. Things that you couldn't do 5 to 10 years ago. So to give you some metrics about the global market estimate, so like the top slide here, so bear in mind it's an estimate I'm giving. There's a lot of different sources available, different metrics. So this is the best of the knowledge based on the market research we've done. But for example, this is a European study that predicts that the green technology sector is going to reach 3.5 trillion by 2020, estimated to double in 2020. Another large driver of green technology is renewable energy. So you can see here, right, if you look at this graphic, the renewable generation capacity outlook, by 2050, we're going to be doubling the production. If you look at today in 2017, globally in the world, we're using around 24.5 renewable energy only, right? So there's a large room to increase this consumption. Another very interesting aspect of green technology is in the green building material market. This market is expected to see a very large growth. Like you may see it here, the expected growth here is around 11.9%, but in some sectors linked to green building, we're expecting 20%. A lot of innovation is currently being included in the green building material market. So what are the main drivers into green technology growth? So technology is a big one, right? Technology has enabled a convenience and price that was not existing before. If you think about price of renewable energy today, so if you look at solar and wind energy, for example, you know either in par or lower than fossil fuel. So that's enabled a very large increase in the usage of renewable energy, because suddenly as a consumer, you can afford renewable energy. One thing that is also very interesting is the market is changing. Consumers want more and more sustainable products. There was a survey that was recently done that shows that 85% of consumers, they will preferably buy a product that is sustainable, right? Among like different products that they will have, they will pick the one that is the most sustainable. They also, 90% of the same consumers say they expect, 90% of them expect that corporation and organization are responsible for the environment, for the weight that they have on the environment. And the last one, which I think is really interesting, is corporate sensitivity. So you can see that in a lot of different domains. There is a study that I recently picked from a Bloomberg article that among 25 of the largest US companies reviewed by Bloomberg, 21 say that they identified an inherent climate-related risk with the potential to have a substantial financial or strategy impact. Another interesting aspect on the corporation is that if you look at human resource report, global human resource report from a lot of different companies, between 5 years ago and now, you've seen an increasing importance of sustainability. Employees want their company to be sustainable, and they're going to make them accountable for it. So the second driver is obviously the technology, we just mentioned. So technology such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, robotics, data analytics, machine learning all enable new solutions to be pushed at the lower price. You also have seen in terms of investment, very large investment being ported to green technology. It started with renewable energy. You may have seen in the last 2 years, more and more financial institutions have been putting money into renewable energy. But if you, for example, look also at the agtech sectors. So agtech sector was used to receive a good amount of investment, but not from very large corporations. In the last few years, you've seen a massive interest from corporations going into agtech because they realize we're going to have a problem with food supply, right? So again, a very large amount of investment that is pushing this green technology wave that you're seeing today. And of course, like the obvious driver is environment, right? More and more resources are being depleted. There is water management, for example. Water is a water source that is going to be scarce. It's going to become more and more scarce based on the consumption that you're seeing today, climate change, and the fact that it's currently not barely being retreated. So we start to look at, so a company works with green technology, and the goal is to really, with a benefit corporation, our goal is to really accelerate the adoption of green technology. So we start looking at it from a business standpoint, right? So this classification is certainly not meant to be an official classification. That's a classification we made because our goal was to find practical business solutions that could offer financial growth and impact, right? And that's the beauty behind green technology, because you heard about impact all the time, impact investing, impact this, impact that. But how do you measure impact? Well, if you create solution to either recycle, regenerate, you suddenly have a way, using the technology that we have developed, to measure accurately the impact that you have on our planet. And by being able to measure and scale, you can really start making a difference for an environment. So we defined this green technology into 6 different verticals because again, our goal was to create clusters where we can associate different early stage companies, different technologies that provide a practical solution. So the first one we're going to be covering today, that includes, as we're going to see, includes many sources of energy, the 2 main ones being solar and wind. It's a sector that is booming right now, and it's expecting to boom in the next few decades. The food system, it's a fascinating one, it's a fascinating vertical. There's a lot of things happening right now in the food system. So if you think about the food system, there's like multiple facets. The way we organize the food system, we divide it in 3 sectors. The first one, which is regenerative agriculture. So regenerative agriculture is a very fascinating domain because suddenly, by using techniques, changing the way you do agriculture and using different techniques, you can, for example, capture the carbon in the soil. By planting specific crops, you can actually capture the carbon through soil sequestration much more efficiently than other techniques. Another aspect is precision technology. Right? Through sensors, data analytics, machine learning, you're capable to do robot automation or robotics. You're capable to predict accurately what the crops is going to be, minimize the amount of resource that you need to generate your yield. A lot of very interesting innovation. And the third aspect is in food itself. So food is going through an entire disruption. We used to look at food as just something we eat. Now we're looking at food as medicine. We're looking at food, how can we use food to have an impact on our environment? What's the environmental footprint of the food that we're eating? And that's extremely interesting how the food system is starting to shape the world we live in today. The third aspect is ocean ecosystem. Well, under ocean ecosystem, you're going to find a different sub-vertical. There's aqua farming, there is ocean energy, there is bio-based material. There's a lot of innovation. There's also like a brand new ecosystem that people want to create, or underliving, ocean underliving. So a lot of innovation there in this space as well. The fourth one is plastic economy, right? Like if you think about the amount of plastic it's around we're currently at 8.8 billion of plastic that has been generated. At this 8.8 billion of plastic, 6.8 billion is trashed. So when you think about this, you say, wow, that's really bad news. But that's also a great opportunity, right? Because we have an opportunity today to create solutions to recycle this plastic, to find alternative solutions to this plastic, to generate energy from this plastic. So another aspect on the plastic economy you may have heard about microplastic. Microplastic is becoming a huge problem. What we find is microplastic. So how many people know what microplastic is? So that's perfect. Because microplastic is very small particle of plastic, less than 5 millimeter. So I don't want to scare you, but that's very interesting because plastic takes up to 400 years to degrade. But microplastic is mostly coming from fabrics. You know, when you wash your clothes, this piece of fabric go in the water, and we find microplastic everywhere. You know this plastic bottle that you're drinking for? There is like, it's been sampled all over the world. There is around 90% of this plastic bottle that contain microplastic. So microplastic is everywhere. It's in the water, it's in the soil, it's in our gut. Last November 2018, researchers find microplastic in our gut. And now they're starting to understand, like, well, they're starting to investigate what's the impact of microplastic, because it's going to be absorbed. The smaller particles are going to be absorbed through our guts and go into our own and impact our health at some point. So again, right, I know it may sound like bad news, but it's also an amazing opportunity for us to create solutions. The next one is waste solution. So we will be covering both renewable energy and waste solution in this presentation today. Same thing. You know, we have a huge problem with waste. And it's going to get increasingly worse because the trend of waste is not going down. The trend of waste is going up. There's also some China, for example. If you look at waste, the Occidental countries, Europe and North America, we used to send the waste to China, India, and other countries. Which in January 1st of 2018, China said, no, we're closing our borders, we don't want your trash. So now, what are we doing with this trash? Putting in more landfill, so it creates more pollution, and it kills us, and it kills biodiversity. There's clearly some interesting solution there that can be developed that not only are financial, are going to make money, but are going to create a measurable impact. And the last one, it is also a very interesting topic, is green building. So when you think about green building, you probably think at the first level of green building, which is using solar energy, which being renewable, using some smart water conservation. But there is a lot of different innovation that's happening as well. In terms of material, we're starting to explore living material that we could include in construction that would make this structure like a living structure and also like biodegradable. Concrete being a main contributor of pollution and greenhouse gas emission today. So let's talk first about the renewable energy. So this is a very fascinating sectors, very large sectors. Again, we under renewable energy, we've been including all sources of energy. So you may be familiar already with, you may be familiar already with solar or wind energy. There is other type as well. They are more geolocalized. But biomass, geothermal, hydropower, ocean. Biomass and biogas is starting to get more and more interesting in terms of waste disposal. Like being able, it still generates CO2, but you actually can dispose the waste and create energy. Waste, we call that waste to energy solution. So the market size renewable energy, keep in mind here that it's an estimate. That's again, like in terms of renewable energy, you find like multiple metrics. In this case, the 1.4 trillion is estimated for the Advanced Energy Economy Organization. So out of this 1.4 trillion, the US market is estimated to be 200 billion. In terms of investment size for this market, so if you look, almost 300 billion was spent on renewable in 2017 versus only 132 billion, right? And most of the investment go to solar and wind energy. So the expected growth in terms of generation capacity, the renewable generation capacity is expected to double. So by 2050, have a double of production. So when you know again that renewable energy represents already 24.5% of the global energy consumption, it's a very nice trend that you're seeing as far as people adopting renewable energy. The main country that is really promoting renewable energy right now, both in terms of investment and capacity, is China. China has a very big contribution of wind energy and solar energy. So let's look into a little more advanced metrics under renewable energy. So to me, the more interesting metrics that is really mainly explaining why renewable energy is getting a new essor today is cost. So the top graphics, what it does, it shows you a comparison of cost between 2010 and 2017. So you may remember in 2010, there was an essor of solar energy, solutions were pushed, innovation was pushed, investment were made in solar energy, and it kind of like went up, but didn't really scale. It was not sustainable. And the main reason was cost and innovation. Technology was not mature enough, the cost was too high. Well, if you look now, which is really interesting, is that cost of well, I think I'm not going to use that. the cost of your energy in terms of solar and wind is lower than your fossil fuel. So the line that you see here is a fossil fuel cost range. So you have a lot of biomass, geothermal, hydro. They all have been staying pretty much at the same level, but solar energy has been down. And the trend is that it's going to be down even more. Right? So, for example, solar energy, why did the cost went so low? Well, there's been a lot of tremendous innovation, technology innovation in there. Like the photovoltaic cell, the cost of a photovoltaic cell in the last decade went down by 99%. Right? So that's a big jump. In terms of onshore wind, that's currently the most profitable energy in the world today. Right? So it's a very interesting matrix that explains why the renewable energy today is getting such an essor, because the cost is there, the infrastructure is there, the cost is there. In terms of energy, we talked a little about that. So the investment in renewable, as you can see, most of it solar and wind. China, as I say, is a big pusher in terms of investment, followed by the United States. And it's mostly in solar energy and wind energy. And to further confirm the essor of solar energy, like if you look at the graph above, like the top right graph, so you can see like a very large growth rate, and they're all associated with solar component. So what are the major trends behind technology behind this renewable energy? So the first trend, again, as we say, technology innovation. We talked about cost, right? Cost efficiency, like, okay, because the decreased cost has really enabled more and more people to access to renewable energy. But the technology innovation behind renewable energy is quite fascinating. Automation, for example, right? There's an example, this company called First Solar company in the United States. By using automation, they were able to reduce 30% of the cost in comparison to their Chinese counterpart. Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has been a great tool in reducing cost for renewable energy. If you think, for example, so AI can be used to predict weather very accurately. So let's think about a wind energy, right, where you need to evaluate both supply and demand. Like if you have a windy, cold day, where both the supply and demand are going to be impacted. You're going to have more energy, but people are going to use more energy. Well, if you have a windy night, most likely the demand is going to be low, but you're going to have a lot of supply. So using AI, you can start identifying very accurately with a pattern and be able to optimize your supply demand. Like there's a company in Spain called Spherical. In 7 years, by using AI, they decreased by 2 the errors that was related to weather pattern. Blockchain is also a very fascinating area for energy, for renewable energy. Because blockchain can allow the democratization of the whole energy system. Through blockchain, there is more and more early stage company developing solution about energy certificate that will basically, by using blockchain as a transparent mechanism, be able to issue energy certificate and exchange it. And this, you're gonna say one limitation about blockchain that's really energy intensive. People are using renewable energy to actually fit the need of blockchain. So very interesting applications are being created in renewable energy using blockchain. Advanced material. Have you heard about perovskite? So I guess not. Perovskite is a new type of material that is widely available in nature, so entirely natural ingredient and material that has some very interesting electrical properties. So it's being used more and more. It's being listed as the next generation of solar innovation. And it's predicted that it's going to be used massively in, for example, batteries for electric cars, solar system, circuitry, electronic circuitry. So a lot of innovation is starting to be happening as well in advanced material. And they're predicting that by using perovskite, they will be able to defeat the current solar limitation the current limitation associated with solar technology today. So that would enable us for the cost to be even lower and the performance to be even better. So 3D printing is also an interesting innovation for renewable energy. There is a company, for example, from the wind industry. They use 3D printing to create a mold for the wind blade that they're using, and they went from 1 year to 3 months in terms of production cycle. So by using this technology that Samsung contributed to develop, right? It was created a few years ago for specific application. But now we're realizing more and more that those technologies can be used to have a huge impact on the environment. And there's a lot of solutions that are being created as a result. So we'll see a major trend that you're seeing, and there's clearly an increasing demand for energy. Like you have heard about smart cities, so communities, corporations, emerging market that didn't have an energy grid relying on fossil fuel. They have been like a country like Kenya, for example, is going to be 100% solar energy. There's a lot of drivers coming also from electric vehicle and big data servers. Electric vehicle. Do you know how many cars are expecting to be on the market by 2025? 25 million of electric cars are going to be available. We're expecting 400 different types of electric vehicle cars. So there's going to be a lot of consumption in terms of electricity. Big data servers. Big data servers is a huge market. It's expecting to be 110 billion by, I think it was 2023. So the amount of energy that is big data servers is also quite large. And you find more and more solutions associating big data servers with renewable energy, close to water source, close in windy country, like pushing these big data servers in, for example, using geothermal energy. So this demand, the demand is just up, right? The demand is increasingly high. As we consume more and more information, as we drive more and more, as we create more and more automation, we need more and more electricity. So we need to further develop renewable energy. And the beauty of the time we're living in is that we have the technology to make progress, right? We're starting to see that this renewable energy is actually reliable, cost-effective, with a trend, and the trend is up. So what are the opportunities to innovate, right? Keep in mind again that I am not the Bible. I'm not a universal knowledge. Those are opportunities we find by looking very closely at market, looking at startup, understanding where the market is doing. So the first one, this one you're probably not surprised, charging station for electric vehicle. This is a huge market. Just think about it, right? 25 million of cars by 2025. How are you going to charge these cars? If you have an electric car in Silicon Valley, I bet you at time you're struggling to be able, if you like, you're going to be drive somewhere where you need to find to plug. As you get more and more electric cars, there's going to be a shortage of station. So what's interesting today is like you've seen a massive amount of investment in the last year towards charging station because corporations are understanding that. Financial institution, like a lot of money from the East Coast has fueled into renewable charging station. Automotive company Shell, for example, bought a company in the Netherlands, 30,000 charging stations because they realized the future is about charging station, right? So they're starting to migrate their business. The thing though is all Volkswagen also. Volkswagen is like automotive company are really starting to invest in charging station because that's the only way they'll be able to deploy electric vehicle. So Volkswagen, you may have seen that. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. They announced their first mobile charging station that they want to deploy to basically be able to support the electric vehicle that they're developing. The interesting thing behind that is it's already happening, right? We already going to put charging station everywhere, but they're all going to be connected to the grid. The grid, still using 75% of the grid is still fossil fuel. So the next generation of charging stations should really be about using renewable. If you really want to be sustainable and looking in a long shot, I think there's going to be a transition or having charging stations that rely on renewable energy, like solar-based. Tesla is already exploring like solar roof to basically provide electricity to the car, right? So there's a lot of innovation in this space. So solar productivity and storage. Again, that's the same thing. Like if you really want to scale solar, you're starting to reach limitation in terms of storage capacity. And that's where like advanced materials such as perovskite is coming in play. Because you can actually build some, there is innovation going into using perovskite or even another approach to create a better storage system. Because that's the bottleneck right now. Like the cost is low, we can produce solar energy, the efficiency of photovoltaic cells is decent enough and we're even going to be improving it more. But the productivity and storage is going to be a bottleneck. Infrastructure and power grid as well, we went a long way, but there is still a lot of, in terms of distribution of renewable energy, a lot of improvement that needs to be done. Then digital assets with blockchain. This is again a very interesting area. So I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with the concept of blockchain. It's, you know, when the blockchain was introduced, there's a lot of application around blockchain and a lot of energy costs associated with blockchain. So obviously, you need to have a refinement in using blockchain. But using blockchain for energy, there is more and more phases behind it, because if you want to give it access to community and enable the democratization of energy, blockchain allows you to create a financial monetization of your energy. And it becomes like a financial entity that can be circulated and shared. A bio-based material, we talked about this, like there is a lot of a new approach that is based on, perovskite is the most advanced one, but there is also the materials that are being considered that are biodegradable. So I have a few examples to give you. Some of them are local, some of them are like global. Polycycle, it's an example of a California startup that is generating energy from plastic, right? So they're recycling plastic into energy. EcoWave Power, that's a company that is based in Israel, one of the leading companies to generate energy from ocean. Because you can think about renewable energy, we have the option today to make it very geolocalized. There is some islands in the Mediterranean that are entirely self-sufficient. They develop their energy grid based on renewable energy, and they're entirely self-sufficient. So it can be done, and sometimes it has to be about where you are. Like if you have close to the ocean, you can generate energy. If you have a lot of wind, like in Texas, there's a lot of wind energy coming from Texas. Like Solar Gaps is also a very interesting company. It's actually a company, they went to CES, I think, 2 years ago. They actually won some of the competition there. And it's a company that has created a smart blind. So it's for B2C and B2B, consumer and corporation. You can actually at your house, let's say, well, you cannot install a solar roof or do some large improvement. You can actually put a solar blind to generate some amount of electricity. Quarry Token, Power Ledger is an Australian company that is starting to get a lot of visibility in the blockchain for renewable energy. KPS, Kite Power System, this is also a very interesting company. They released a kite system for consumers where you can generate energy, like finding like a reasonable source of energy. So now we cover renewable energy. We're gonna go into a second vertical, which is waste solution. So when I worked with Stefan and Catherine about the vertical we wanted to talk about, we decided to select renewable energy because I think that's the most common vertical that people will understand and will relate to. And the second one was about waste, because waste solution, especially for a Silicon Valley Corporation, is a key element. What do we do with all this waste? Because if we start thinking, until now, we've been assuming all our resources are infinite, right? Our business model is based on the fact that we just generate growth and we use all the resources we can. And we have an infinite amount of resource, which is not the case, right? We're starting to reach the point where no, we've been depleting in resources. Pretty soon, some material that I use in electronic components are going to be depleted. Pretty soon, we won't be able to produce because we've generated all this waste. So we're really at the point where we reach the threshold. We have to find solution. But I like to look at this type of situation as a beautiful opportunity to create a business situation that can make money, but also have an impact, a measurable impact on the environment. So under waste solution, again, that's our classification. By looking at the market, we always look at practical solution that can be scaled. So that's the definition that we adopted. So under waste solution, we put, of course, electronic waste, because that's an area with more and more concern. But food waste is also a big one, chemical, medical waste, plastic, and natural resource. Water is going to become a very large problem. We don't see it yet because the cost of water is artificially very low. But in the last few decades, you're going to see an entire shift in terms of water. And we have to be ready to deploy solution because it's going to have some massive consequences otherwise. So in terms of market size, so again here, right, depending on what you define by what the size of the waste market, what is the waste market, you're going to find some variation. So I wanted to give you some estimates so you have some idea. The global waste market is estimated to be around 303 billion in 2017. So the e-waste raw material. So e-waste is a very interesting bird because it's not very captured. There's only a few metrics. Like if you look at the global e-waste report in 2016 and 2017, it's really hard to measure accurately e-waste and to track e-waste. But so far it's been estimated that the cost of raw material of e-waste was around 55 billion. The plastic waste, the market size was estimated to be 24 billion in 2017. So in terms of investment, they've been investing in a lot of different areas that I didn't list there, but the largest one by far has been the World Bank. They've been putting 4.7 billion since 2000. Because waste, until recently, has been considered as a problem. It's almost like you're a non-profit, you're talking about waste. But now we're starting to look at it as a business. We have to provide solution and we can make money out of it. So you're gonna start seeing more and more investment in the waste business sector. So the expected growth, the global waste market is expected to reach 1.2 trillion by 2022. And again, this number, I couldn't really get what this number was including. So it may be that this number, but it's the range that I gave you. But what's really interesting and alarming and interesting as well is that the waste could increase by 70%. At the rate we're going, it could increase by 70% by 2050. So at this rate, we won't be able to sustain it. All right? So there's a lot of people that are starting to look at solution from a business standpoint and impact standpoint. So more metrics in terms of the waste, for example. Every year we generate 2.12 billion tons of waste. This is huge. Right? And when you consider that 99% of it is something that should trash within 6 months. Like, for example, food waste. Do you know how much we waste per day in the US? Per person? 1 pound per person a day. That's the food we waste. Well, there is amazing opportunity there. Create solution to reuse, recycle, so that this is if you have a little common sense, right? You think about, we produce a lot, and we keep wanting to produce more, and we're using techniques that are depleting the soil, that are creating food that is not nutritious, but yet we waste 1 pound of food per person a day, 150,000 tons of food per day for the US. That's a huge number. Same thing, e-waste. In 2016, 44.7 million metric tons of e-waste were generated. So if you look in comparison, that's 4,500 Eiffel Towers. That's a huge amount of e-waste. Because this e-waste go in the landfill, in water, create pollution. What are we doing, right? Plastic is another massive problem, right? You hear more and more about plastic, but the consumption is still increasing. We expecting 12 billions of tons by 2050, a very large number. And when you think that as of today, we have 8.8 billion ton of plastic, and we have only 6.8 million in the trash, in landfill already. So really, we're at the point where we pushed an economic system that serves us well to develop our economy, where we're thinking we can just use all the resource, we can just not dispose the waste, and we keep consuming. But we're entering a new era where we need a different economic model that's going to take in consideration all these environmental parameters, so we can keep still consuming at the same rate, right? But doing it in a smarter way. So what are the main drivers behind waste solution? Again, technology. Technology, if you use the same type of technology as the one I previously talked about, AI, machine learning, data analytics, blockchain, IoT, sensors, using this technology, some people have been capable of creating amazing solutions. Like there's a lot of new product coming in the sorting technology. I don't know you, but me, when I live in Marin County, when I try to recycle, and I'm trying to look at all my trash and do it, I have a PhD, I can't even figure it out. It's so complicated. So I'm using technology to do it efficiently. I think it's a key, it's a great advantage of using, you have a company, Clean Robotics, that has been using a combination of AI and robotics, and they've been creating this trash bot. It's mostly for corporation, but the idea is there's more and more companies that are being created under this system to basically create a viable business solution financially, but also that resolve an environmental problem. The other one is a circular economy. economy. So you may have heard about circular economy. As I mentioned, in 1950, if you look at the US economy, it's very interesting. In 1950, economists decided we're going to grow the economy of this country, and we're going to push GDP. We're going to push the growth. And it served the United States well, because we created a very powerful nation, powerful economy. But now we reached a point where we passed the boundaries. By not taking in consideration the impact on the environment and the impact on society, we have created something that's not sustainable. So there is more and more discussion around, from a government level, corporate level, to push a circular economy. And by that, it means a circular system where, yeah, you can still produce, you can still consume, but you have an upcycle. You're going to be recycling, reusing. You're going to change your manufacturing process to take that in consideration, recycling. So a lot of, it's something in circular economy that's very interesting, because it's happening top-down from government, corporation, and organization, but also bottom-up. People are realizing, well, what can we do, right? Maybe I recycle more, maybe I live a little differently, I change some habits. So there's really a convergence behind circular economy, and I think that's something that you're gonna hear more and more. It's still at the level when it's like global conversation, but I truly believe green technology can be a practical example of a circular economy by bringing solution where, like you and I, right, is a reality, the day-to-day, which is about how we live. We're not gonna change that. It's like hundreds of years of evolution. But if we start using technology, creating convenient solution that I can use, Catherine can use, you can use, then we all start resolving the problem, right? And technology is a great way to address the challenges we're facing today. So in terms of environment, I'm preaching the choir, I'm sure you're aware. I gave you already like a lot of metrics. Depleted resources, water is going to be a big one, right? And if you think about it right now, the way our water system is set is entirely efficient. We keep drinking water from the tap, right? And 80% of this water is being trashed back. 80%. We don't recycle, we don't retreat, so we could be reusing this water, we just keep taking. And when you think about the increase in human population, the fact that it's going to be a lot of problem with ground supply water in a lot of countries, India is already facing it, and the fact that there is climate change that is causing drier and drier weather, pretty quickly we're gonna hit a bottleneck there. Air is the same thing, air pollution. So the problem, especially in Asia, about air pollution, increasing waste, right? We talk about food waste, but here I think we have great opportunity to still be consuming to keep this economic growth that we're seeing, but doing it in a smarter way, right? By including more recycling and reusing into a cycle, into an economic cycle. So opportunity to innovate, I just talked about it, the waste sorting collection. There's more and more companies that are being developed to use technology, to leverage technology to create solutions like AI. Usually it's a combination of AI and robotics, and it's quite efficient in sorting waste efficiently. Microplastic sensing technology. So this one, I think it's a fascinating topic, because if you think about the microbiome, right? You may have heard about the microbiome. The gut is a new brain, right? Because there is more and more science that shows that some of the impulse that come from your gut is actually like controlling your brain. So the microbiome, we're realizing more and more that it's a key piece of the human system. And there is more and more disease, cancer, depression, obesity that are now linked to the microbiome, to the microbes that we have in our gut. Well, if we keep drinking water, if we keep producing plastic at the rate we're doing, we're going to be loaded with microplastic pretty soon. They estimate as of today 50%, and that's a conservative estimate, but 50% of people have microplastic inside their body. It's in your gut. So I think there's going to be a need, from a health standpoint, what do we do with this microplastic? Do we measure it, or do we understand the impact that it can have on maybe on your nervous system, right? So there's more and more research going into this direction. A waste-derived biogas. So that's also an area which is going. In terms of investment, not so much, but you see a lot of innovation, a lot of new company being starting. It's usually geolocalized, but it's an area that is growing. A smart water saving solution. Again, like any, I'm a very practical person. I'm an engineer. So what I like to do is when I see big global concept, how can we create practical solution? Because at the end of the day, we can be all talking about this, but stay and do nothing. Or we can start thinking, what type of solution can we create that are convenient, that people could use, either B2C or B2B, and that could start addressing the problem. And the more we scale, the more we address the problem. So bio-based electronic components, so that's also very interesting. I talk about perovskite, right? That's gonna be, there is some research to use it more and more in electronic circuitry, in some of the electronic coating that you see. I think as we move forward, what you're gonna see in electronics is more and more innovation toward biomimicry. Biomimicry is a science that is looking at nature to develop solutions. And when you do that, right, naturally, the concept of e-waste will disappear. If you introduce more and more biodegradable elements in electronics, then your e-waste problem is starting to slowly decreasing. Plastic alternative solution, this one is also quite interesting. We're seeing more and more companies providing biodegradable solutions for anything, right? It can be coffee lid, it can be in electronic components as well, the plastic that is being used. What's interesting about this is that if you look at this biodegradable plant-based solution, very often they have electric characteristics that makes it available for electronics, right? Because it also has to be achievable. When you're talking to electronics, it's about reaching some specific specification, but there is some very interesting possibility in this. So here I'm listing some very interesting success story, in my opinion, when it's not going to be a solution that fixes it all, but it's a lot of small solutions that at the end of the day, like you had one drop, pretty soon you become a river, then you become a larger river, and then you become an ocean. So that's the principle of all these companies. They all address practical problems that we all do today, but we do it in a smart way. Like Hydraho is a showerhead. The showerhead that allow you to reuse continuously the water you're using for your shower. And what's pretty cool about this showerhead is that they've been putting a turbine in the showerhead. So it's also generating electricity to make some type of like fancy colors. And so it makes it something that's attractive to people, that make them happy, and then you're saving water, right? Another one, MyFoodie, that's an Italian startup that is starting to really grow large in Europe, and that's about food waste. They, through an app and through data analytics, they connect the consumer to supermarket and grocery stores. Let's say you're a consumer, and these grocery stores and supermarkets have usually expiration dates that, you know, there's a lot of question about are these expiration dates valid or no, but a day before, right, they can't sell the food anymore. So they actually using an app, you can connect to this grocery store, buy the food at 50% reduction. The supermarket is still capable of selling it. You buy it at 50%. And this company, because it's taking just a little margin, it's like a great business idea. It's a great business proposition. Same thing, Clean Robotics is, I think I mentioned it. That's a company that has developed a trash bot. That they call it a trash bot, which is using AI and robotics to create a smart sorting solution. So that concludes my presentation. So today, we have a choice, right? We have a choice to live in a beautiful planet. We have a choice to respect, recycle, and regenerate. We have a choice to work together toward a better future. Or we have a choice to just do nothing and watch helpless our planet like being destroyed. So I'm asking you today, which future do we want? So that was a positive note. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk today.